Hello, this is Viewpoint on Ukraine today. Now, the Crimean Tatars' main representative body could soon be banned by the Russian-appointed authorities. But what consequences does this have? Plus, what is the Ukrainian government strategy to deal with this? Joining us is Mejlis, a Ukrainian activist and advisor to the government on Crimean issues. Thank you very much for coming in to Ukraine today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So we had the news that the Crimean so-called prosecutor is going to consider very soon whether to ban the Crimean Tatars or not.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you as an activist, now, what sort of effect would this have if this did happen?
Well, there are several dimensions of that effect. Could be on the surface. Let's first talk about the procedure of that banning. Actually, whenever it comes to Crimea, we have to mention that every court and every trial is a kind of a kangaroo court. So it doesn't have any case to law, rightfulness, or justice. So everything is kind of politically motivated courts. And Natalia Poklonskaya, she filed a lawsuit to the Mejlis activists who are in Crimea today, claiming that they should be banned because of it's kind of an NGO or public organization that deals with kind of extremist activities. And the official justification for that was a so-called application of different public organizations of Crimean Tatars who officially request the Crimean government to react and some kind to ban that extremist activities.
So it's very illogical then the Crimean Tatars are asking other Crimean Tatars and their own organization to be banned?
Well, actually, it's a classic way of and a tradition for Russian Federation to deal with national issues. So they kind of split up Crimean Tatars for right Crimean Tatars, those who who are somehow stick to this official position of Russian Federation, and those who are against. And who are against, it's an overwhelming majority today. So it's more than 90% of Crimean Tatars. They did not vote on the referendum. They openly and publicly say no to Russian Federation. There are so many, explanations of why did this happen, and they're marginalizing this Crimean Tatar national movement. But the main issue in that I have to vocal is that Mejlis is not an organization, so it's not a public organization. It's a representative body. It was elected by Crimean Tatars, and there's the system of self-government is so that we have Kurultai, it's a kind of a legislative branch of power. It's a parliament of Crimean Tatars that consists of 250 delegates. And those delegates, they appoint the Mejlis, the central Mejlis, let's say so-called cabinet of ministers. It consists of 33 members of Mejlis, and some of them, it's 2 or 3, are now currently cooperating with the occupation body. Others
so
are
it's
not.
Like a small number then, but they all have their different roles.
But for them, it's a kind of a showcase. You see, Crimean Tatars are with us. So they're trying to convince the whole world that Crimean Tatars are extremely happy with everything that's going on in Crimea, and they want to convince everyone that Mejlis is some kind of lying or trying to put another agenda.
And this is a view that's actually given by much of the Russian state media as well. I wanted to ask you, the likelihood of this ban going through is very high, almost certain. So how are the Crimean Tatars preparing for this exactly?
It's a difficult issue. I had several conversations with the leaders of Mejlis who are also banned to enter Crimea. So it's Mustafa Jamilov, the leader of Crimean Tatars, and Rifat Chubarov, who is currently a captain of Mejlis, a head of Mejlis.
And they're both Ukrainian MPs, aren't they?
Yes, and both Ukrainian MPs. They're currently in Kyiv. So whenever it comes to Mejlis activities, we should understand that Crimea is now a territory that is occupied. So you cannot exercise your activities, and Mejlis cannot exercise its activities in the full scale. So we have a representation of Mejlis in Kyiv, and they're trying to put this Crimea on the international or inner level of Ukrainian political discourse. And as far as I know, they're looking for a kind of formula of how to deal with that ban. Because when it comes to Mejlis, it's not only the central Mejlis of 33 members, it's also it is the whole range of Crimean Tatar Mejlises, or kind of branches of Mejlis on the regional level. So it's 250 regional Mejlis that consists of more than 1,500 people.
Yeah, and you talk about the Mejlis, but for a lot of people, they might not know about how powerful it is or what sort of issues they deal with. So could you just briefly tell us about what sort of a role the Mejlis actually plays in Crimean Tatar society?
The main crucial is that it's a representative body, because Crimean Tatars, as an indigenous people of Crimea, they have a right for governing themselves. So these representative bodies are so-called self-government of Crimean Tatars. So whenever it comes to Mejlis, you should never say that it's a public organization that is not representative. So it was elected.
And you say that they have a representation now in Kiev. What exactly is the Ukrainian government doing to actually, firstly, help the Crimean Tatars? What sort of strategy do they have to help?
There is, we should understand that currently there is no kind of, let's say, complex and comprehensive strategy on the occupation of Crimea. Because Crimean Tatars, they turned out to be the main force to push Crimea somehow, not only on international level, but also in Ukraine. So they're trying to put Crimea on the surface and trying to look for the ways to solve this issue. But we should understand that, like Ukrainian politicians, they say that they're working on this kind of strategy.
Do they have any strategies in particular
they said that
it was not confirmed, but any ideas at all?
They said it was a kind of secret document within the Security Council of Ukraine. So I haven't seen it by myself. I know that the work is going on. I could also speak on my Ministry of Information that really covers kind of communication, several communication campaigns on Crimea. So this is something that I could be an expert on and could talk on.
Yeah, and talking about communications, there was recent news that the Crimean Tatars' only TV channel, ATR, which used to broadcast in Crimea, now it's from Kiev, now faces closure because of lack of funding. So what sort of effect would that have? That's
a channel, that's a refugee channel, actually, that was forced to leave Crimea. It had a chance to broadcast for a year after the annexation, but the owner of the channel is a Russian businessman of Crimean Tatar origins, Leonid Islamov, and because of his pro-Ukrainian position today, his business is now shut down in Russia. That's why he has any resources to cover the budget of the channel. And he requests the government to help him somehow. And the Minister of Information is now, we had an official press release on the website saying that at the nearest session of the cabinet ministers, we are going to put this ATR channel issue on the voting of cabinet ministers and, kind of requesting them to find any formula to cover the expenses of the channel from the Ukrainian budget.
What's your expectation? Do you think that they will decide that, yes or no?
Actually, it's possible. It's not an issue of Ukrainian government did not want or have no will to kind of help them. It's only an issue of technical ways to find the ways to cover the budget of private channel. Because ATR is a private channel.
I see. And also there's a lot of other work that's going on in Kiev to help the Crimean Tatars, but also in Crimea there are still Crimean Tatars who are working to help the others. So what sort of work is being done to protect them? It's very dangerous now.
It's actually all those repressions that Crimean Tatars do face because of their pro-Ukrainian position make everyone... So the politics on Crimean Tatars is a kind of it's very oppressive. So the occupation government is trying to get rid of Crimean Tatars from Crimea. So it's kind of inner deportation, as we say. It's a politics of ethnicity. So they're trying to get rid of Crimean Tatars anyhow, or to make them keep silence.
And what sort of ways are they using, though?
So they're torturings, arrestings, rummages. We had recently, 11th and 12th of February, we had more than 20 rummages in the houses of Crimean Tatars. And those... within 2 years of occupation, more than 20 people, they got lost. So the people of different age, of different gender, of different social activities, it is done on purpose so that every Ukrainian citizen in Crimea or every Crimean Tatar could feel that he could be the next victim of this repression government.
I see. Okay.
So it's an awful politics, actually. And Mejlis in Crimea today, as I told, cannot exercise its activities in protecting Crimean Tatars because they don't have any kind of resource for that, actually. So whenever the territory is occupied, there is no law. And even Russian Federation, like, it's not a classic way of treating people as it happens in Russia, for example. So the occupied territory is really far from being rightful.
I see. So it's a long road ahead then. Okay. Well, thank you very much. That's all we have time for, but it's very interesting to hear your views on Crimea.
Thank you, Tom.
You've been watching Ukraine Today. That was Mejlis, a Ukrainian activist and advisor to the government on Crimean issues. Now, back to the news.